Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a very special guest. She is an entrepreneur, author, motivator, philanthropist, and a mother, most importantly. Please help me welcome my guest, Miss Katrina Walker. How you doing, Katrina?
I'm doing fine. I am doing fine, thank God.
Now, I know you usually say you down to earth, so call you Miss Trina. So I'm just going to call you Miss Trina for the rest of this interview.
Why don't
Is that
you
cool?
do this? Let's take it a little step higher. Why don't you just call me Trina? Why don't you call me?
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Well, Trina, you have an amazing story. I came to know you of who you were some time ago, and I've just been seeing different articles and reading different things and watching different interviews. I'm like, wow, this lady has not only a testimony, but amazing accomplishments. You know, so I had to get you on and talk to you. I want to start from your beginning, though. I know you were raised in Memphis, but born in Akron, Ohio.
Can I say
tell
one
me,
thing?
What was life?
Can I say one thing before we get started? I just want to say thank you, Lord Jesus. Just from what you just said, I have to say thank you. Because, you know, I mean, it's so touching to me that, you know, God has allowed me to touch others and to help others, you know, and that's what I do. That's what I want to do. And I just have to say thank you to you just for, you know, acknowledging that, you know, you saw something, you know, because I never knew exactly what it was, you know, but when God got something for you to do, he has something for you to do, you know. So I just thank you, and I thank the people, and I thank God. I thank God first and foremost. Thanks a million.
Amen.
Years. All right.
No problem.
Okay.
So what was your beginnings like? You were raised in Memphis but born in Akron, Ohio. What was life like for you as a little girl?
Okay. Well, Cornell, what happened was my mom, she was a little fast lady, okay? And from what I understood, my mother, you know, she was born in 1932, but my mother was a little different than most people. She left. She told my grandmother, she had two younger children. She told my grandmother that she was going to the store. And she stayed gone for about a year. And when she came back, she couldn't drive, but when she came back a year later, now you're going to the store to get some bread or whatever, okay? But you come back a year later, and my sister, which was at that time 5.5 years old, was standing there, and she see her somebody drive up with my mother in the car. And she tell my sister, she said, come here. She says, and my sister says, take her. And it was me. So she stayed gone long enough to get pregnant, have a baby, and come back to Memphis. I was born in Akron, Ohio. And it wasn't a bad thing. She left my sister and my brother with my grandmother, but my mom was just on the go trying to make a better life, because where we were from in Memphis, it was a little small community, which African-American black people, which what they call us colored people back then, and we had like 3 or 4 streets that we could be on, and after that, it was a white neighborhood, and we were forbidden to even go there. But, that's the story of Katrina. So basically, I can remember as far as being 4 years old and just being out there. Most 4-year-olds, mama know where you are, But I pretty much, and I'm going to be honest with you, I raised myself. I knew how to get food and where to go get food. I knew when to go home. Everybody loved me. All the neighbors loved me. I was just a different kind of little girl, from 4, on up, just knew how to get out there. And I knew my girlfriend, she would tell me, which now she's sick, but before she got sick, she would say, Trina, we were little girls playing. How would you know? We didn't have a watch on, but you knew at 12 o'clock to go over to Miss Fanny's house because she was going to feed her daughter that she had adopted or somebody had given her a 3-course meal. So when I knock on the door, the lady would like me so much that she would allow us to come in and we would get to eat, a 3-course meal with her daughter. So that's how life was. I knew where to go eat. I would visit a lot of older people. I knew how to let myself into their home. And like I can remember an old lady, and I would go into her home and give her banana. She couldn't even walk, and make sure she had potassium. And I had to be about 6 or 7 years old. So that's how my life began from the beginning.
So how was that with your brother and your sister who were younger with you? Did they envy you because you seemed like you had such favor even as a child growing up? How was that relationship with them?
Well, I loved my brother and my sister. You know, like my brother was 8 years older than I, which he passed away at a young age. And my sister, again, she was 5.5 years older than I. So as we were growing up, they were doing their own thing. You know, he was into sports, you know, playing football or whatever with his friends, you know, and she was with her friends, and therefore I was wherever I was. I think my sister, my oldest sister, she did things like comb my hair. You know, I can remember that, you know. But, no, they didn't envy me. They just were doing their own thing. So I was always doing my own thing, you know, and that was taking care of myself and knowing how to survive. Say at about 8 years old, you know, I just remember always knowing how to make money. And if I had cousins that were over spending the night, you know, my mother would leave us by then a quarter apiece. I had 2 younger sisters by then. She had 2 more babies. So I was kind of raised them. So, you know, Mama was gone all the time. So I had to figure out a way to get cereal and milk. I was always a person that knew how to make it. So, you know, I knew how to call somebody, Uncle Raymond, Uncle William, somebody, and I could describe to them. I always wanted the best. I would describe to them that I wanted cereal. Can you please get us some cereal? And I said, the one with the Tony the Tiger on the box. You know, I would describe stuff to them. But I was a little girl. At 8 years old, I would wake them up after, you know, Mama would leave us a quarter piece. That just wasn't enough. At 8, I had already formed a business. I would wake my cousin. If she was over there spending the night, I didn't care who it was. My sisters, you all get up. They may be drooling, sleep. Get up. We got to go. And somebody would say, an 8-year-old, where y'all going? You know, they were the crew, and I would tell them they got to find bottles. They would get those bottles together. When they get those bottles together, we'll get them to the store. When we get to the store, I will make them stand out. I get them to take the bottles in. Then I have them to stand outside and wait. When I go in and negotiate with the people in the store, I get dollars, plenty of money, walk back out, pay them at 8 years old, and everybody got money, you know. So at 8, I was doing that. Then I upgraded from that. My mother married a man on an agreement, and when somebody would say on an agreement, he was in the military, and I was so hurt because I really liked this guy because he wasn't there often. But I remember Mama marrying this man, and when she married him, we moved to a white neighborhood. So we kind of went up a little bit, and when we moved there, I decided that I was going to go to the neighbors and learn how to talk them into letting me iron their sheets on their beds. So I would iron the people's sheets, especially the little white ladies. They wanted their sheets ironed for their beds, and I charged them $1 a sheet. So I kept a pocketbook full of money at 9 years old. You know, I just always had something going on. From there, I say around 13 or 14, I ran a whole restaurant. I talked to the lady. I was a little short something. I talked to the lady. She let me run the restaurant at 14, the third shift. Yes, she did. So, you know, I was the waitress. I was the cook. I knew customer service before customer service had a name attached to it. So, you know, I was always making money, was always making power moves at that time. So that's how my life was.
You just knew how to survive.
I knew how to survive.
Now you said mom. Wow. Now you said mom had a arranged marriage. I understand that you were exposed to domestic violence. When did that come into play?
Domestic violence
growing up.
Yes, when I was a little girl. Oh, wow. When I was a little girl, my mother, the 2 younger children that she had, their father was, they called him Crow, and he was so mean. Oh, my God, he was so mean. And I used to always try to be nice to him, you know, just as a little girl, you know, just make sure I don't say the wrong thing. But I remember peeking out the door and seeing him on top of my mama, and he would just be beating her with a closed fist. You know, and I couldn't do much. I had to be about 4 years old. I can just remember running. And the house wasn't that big, but just thinking about it now, I would run to the back, get in the closet. I couldn't help my mama. And I would just urinate all over myself, you know. So as a kid, you remember those things. I was just only 4, but I remember. And I can remember seeing women with shades on back then, you know, dark sunglasses because their eyes would be, you know, where the guys would come in and just beat them up. And this man was so mean to my mother. I can remember my mother being asleep in bed. He worked for like a correctional place in Memphis, outside of Memphis. He had some boots on. He came down in her face while she would sleep with some boots on. I can remember him buying her things or her having nice, pretty shoes, and he broke every heel off her shoe. You know, I can remember shoes just lined up on the side of the house. I can remember her having this little stereo. He would hurt her by just pull the whole inside out the stereo. You know, I just remember I remember this man not letting, it went to the children, letting my older sister, because I used to try to just stay out of his way or be as kind as I could. So he would let me eat a bowl of cereal. But my older sister and brother, he wouldn't even allow them to eat. You know, I just remember him being so cruel and just so mean. And after we moved, I just knew that he wasn't going to know where we lived, and he found his way to our new house. And I was just terrified of this man, and he would just lay on the doorbell and just, you know, when Mama married the man on arrangement, the man was in the military, and this man came to our house, and he would just be on the doorbell and wouldn't stop, and it was a loud doorbell. And I remember my mother getting a chair, going to the hall, and just trying to cut it off. So finally, I believe this man just kind of disappeared, you know, and he got sick. You know, and when he got sick, I still remember him being in the hospital. He had a bad heart. I caught the bus, and to this day, I don't know why. I guess just me and the type of person I am. I was a young girl. I caught the bus to the hospital and went to see him. I remember that. You know, I don't know why I went to see him. Maybe because he let me eat a bowl of cereal. I don't know. But, yeah, I witnessed a lot of domestic violence. Women had a man may have one family on one side of the street and another one on the other side of the street. And women, like I say, just black eyes and just beat up, you know. And don't let Friday come when payday come. You know, it wasn't anything called child support. Men would run and hide from their children, you know, or just come in and beat the women. And the women couldn't drive. They wasn't independent, you know, like today. So it was really hard for a lot of the women back then. It really was. I saw it all.
Wow. You somehow got up and got yourself together, and you eventually became a wife. Tell us about that.
Well, I thought that, you know, once I get married, you know, I grew up on shows like Leave It to Beaver, and when I looked at these TV shows, June Cleaver and her husband and 2 kids, you know, I just really, you know, thought that, you know, even though I witnessed violence, and it wasn't just the women that were beat up, you know, I saw men. My great uncle, his wife would cuss him out and talk about his mom and say really mean things like, your man, and I was a little girl, and I just stand back, your man ain't nothing but a 2-bit hoe, you know, and I just used to be so afraid that this woman, you know, it was women and men, you know, domestic violence, you know, I saw it. So I used to look at these shows, and that was my safe haven. I would look at Julia, you know, which I learned from her, and some of the women, they always kept themselves pretty, you know, but also, like I say, I would look at Leave It to Beaver, and I would see the family setting, and that's how I wanted my family to be. I never knew who my father was. You know, I never knew who my father was until I got to be about 26 years old, and I begged and begged and begged. But to make a long story short, I would look at Leave It to Beaver, and it was just a perfect little family. So I just knew when I got married, I said, I want to have a husband and some children and, you know, work hard and, you know, just a family, you know, and it didn't work that way. And I got married.
Wow.
And I never thought that I was going to be a victim of domestic violence myself, you know. I did a lot of running from this man. I did a lot of, I can just remember one time him coming in and just wanting to fight, you know, and he stay out with his women and do God knows what, you know, whenever he felt like it. So he came in one time, and I remember I had 2 small children. One was, I think they were 3 and 4, and they were in the little bedroom playing, and the man, he just wanted to fight. And all I remember was running down the hallway and ran into the bedroom where my children were and slammed the door, locked it, and I grabbed my kids, and I threw them up on the top bunk bed, my little boy and my little girl, and I got on the bottom bunk bed, and I still remember him kicking that door in, and he kicked it in, and I can remember my little boy hollering out, "Mama, duck," and I ducked, and an iron went flying past my head and landed in the wall, and I always know that if that iron had hit me in my head, I just know that I wouldn't be, you know, here to talk about, you know, what happened. So I've witnessed a lot of domestic violence, and I stayed in that marriage for 20 years because, you know, what I was told from women and different friends, you know, it's going to be too hard out there by yourself. You know, you're not going to be able to survive. You're not going to be able to make it, you know.
Yeah. So that was kind of the mindset of many of the women back then. They didn't know. They knew they couldn't do it without the man, so they just put up with his behavior.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what was told to me. One woman, I can remember my husband not coming in late at night, you know, and she would tell me, she was an older woman, and I guess she had experienced it with her husband, and she said, "Trina, just go in there and, you know, make yourself a panty drawer." I'm like, "What is that?" just roll up your underwear and, make yourself a drawer. In other words, and then I remember calling my mother one time. They would have the craziest advice. I called my mom one time, and I was like, Mama, because I would call him around thinking something happened to him, I think maybe the police stopped him, maybe he ended up in jail. It'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, and he still hadn't shown up. And I just get nervous. I call hospitals, or maybe he had an accident, And I remember one time, I'll never forget, I called my mother, and maybe she meant well, My mother was a tougher lady, And I said, Mama, he hadn't made it home yet, Do you think he's all right? I took everything to call her. I didn't have anybody I could just really go to, or embarrassed that your husband hadn't made it home, And she says, oh, that N-word, she would use that word. She said, oh, that N-word, he'll be in there with a long A-lie. Just like that. Don't call me no D-Mo. Don't call me no damn Mo. Wake me up, Trina. So, those are the things that I had to deal with, and that's mental abuse. That's mental abuse. When your husband don't ever come home, he comes home when he feels like it. He's been with another woman. He has. Daylight hits him in the face all the time. And when you come, you're not supposed to say nothing. So, if you do say something, there's the fight. So,
wow.
It's just, and then he comes home, it's no money, you done took the money, did God knows what, till you end up homeless with 4 children. You have nowhere to go. It's just always a struggle, always up and down, no food, you hungry, you at work, you find a job, he meets you, he takes your money, it's just always something, and the only thing you're doing is trying to survive and make it for your children, you're trying to survive.
Yeah. So what was the state of your inner woman during that period? What was your mindset? My
mindset was that I knew that God didn't intend for me to be this way, that I had to do something. I knew that as long as, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking that I, was supposed to be married and my children supposed to be with their father, that type of deal, because I didn't have a father, not a father in my life. I saw different men in and out of my mother's life, but, I wanted them to have some normalcy, But I had to realize this is not what it's going to be, that God intended for it to be better than this. And no matter how long or how hard I work or whatever plan I come up with, as long as I stay with this individual, I ain't going to never have nothing, never. And I knew that was going to be true. Your children are not going to have anything, and you're not going to have anything. This is going to be your life, riding around in a 15-passenger van with 2 seats, maybe sleeping over at somebody's house, with your children, If you get a place, you're going to lose it, It's going to always be, you're going to always be down in the valley. You'll never have nothing. Your kids won't have nothing, and that's just how it's going to be, because that person can be baggage for you. You got to get rid of the baggage, No matter what you do, if you go up, he's going to pull it right back down. And if it's one piece of chicken, and that's another thing, it's time we didn't have food, it'd be one piece of chicken, he'd be sitting there eating it. The last piece of chicken for the kids. And those are the things that kind of like hit the fan with me. Trina, you're smarter than that. You know what I'm saying? You done stayed with him 20 years, The kids, I mean, you've done the best that you can, You need to do something different. You need to do something, and that's what I did. I did.
So you're at this point where your family is your husband, and your children are homeless. What is the conversation that you're having with the kids? Because at that time, I'm sure 1 or 2 of them were old enough to kind of understand. What did you say to them?
I never ever put my children in. They probably understood, but I never said, well, hey, we're homeless or whatever. We had to pack up our stuff. I remember him being on the side of the house trying to steal utilities, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Our utilities were cut off, and he would steal the utilities, and it just like, okay, and the light company fixed it where he couldn't steal utilities because he had did it more than once. They cut it off from the pole. So I remember us, getting all our stuff and putting it in the van and the kids in the van, and I'm wondering where we were going to go because it had played out to where we were at his mother's house or somewhere, pretending, like we're visiting it, and I know people wondering when are they going home. You know what I'm saying? So, we riding around and nowhere to go. So I remember ended up one time going over to a friend girl of mine's house, and I tell you, that's what did it. It's so many things that's what did it. But being at her house, and she welcomed us, to her, we had to sleep on her floor, and I remember getting my daughter up and taking her to the restroom, my youngest baby girl, to clean her up, and a roach was crawling up my baby, and I knocked it off of her. And things like that is what, all that just woke me up, and just how, I mean, we had no one, just for a minute maybe sleeping on somebody's floor, you know what I'm saying, and just nowhere to go. And, always know where to go till I figured it out. I figured it out again.
Wow.
I figured it out.
Wow. So you eventually divorced your husband and you're a single mom. What was your process? How did you get on your feet from there?
Well, I had gotten on my feet before then. What I did was I learned about Federal Express was a young company. It had moved to Memphis, okay? And, of course, everybody wanted to work there. But I learned about a temporary service. I was still going through all these struggles of running out of gas and pregnant again and walking with 2 little children. You know, I just kept going through things. But anyway, when Federal Express was a young company, moved to Memphis, and I had heard about it, but I learned about it. And I also heard that a temporary service was hiring, was sending people to Federal Express. So I've never been too good for nothing. I always knew you got to start from somewhere and work your way up. So I went to the temporary service bright and early that I'll never forget. I think it was like the next working day, like on a Monday morning. And when I went there, I kind of dropped the name and told the lady, you know, hey, you know, because I knew the name of a guy that actually worked there in simulator where the pilots go and train. I knew of him. And I said, well, you know, I remember dropping maybe a name, and I don't even think she knew him, but it was just the grace of God that I knew how to talk to her, you know. And she sent me, I'll never forget, she sent me to Federal Express. And when I got there, I just mind my own business, did a great job, and the people, you know, of course they liked me, you know, my manager and everything. And I had overheard that, you know, once you're there, you know, they may be hiring within the, you know, they may hire some of the temporaries. So jobs may come open, and they did. So what happened was, I'll never forget, they interviewed 80 people who were going to try to get these jobs. They came open, and they were only hire 10. And I'll never forget, I went to work and I did the best that I could. But I remember you knew the people that worked for Federal Express, and you knew the people that were temporary, okay? So when I went there, I remember that 2 girls was in an employee cafeteria, and they was like, you know, one said, I sure hope she gets the job so she can buy her some clothes. But, you know, at that time, all I was doing was trying to take care of my children, you know. So I didn't even worry about that. I didn't care. Those girls looked pretty and they had their dresses on or whatever. But I was just trying to work there and do the best I can. But anyway, when those jobs came open, I applied. And out of those 10 people, one of them was me. They hired 2 ladies, and one was me. So I landed that job. So at that time, the owner at Federal Express, Fred Smith, he owned the company. He would come out there and actually talk to us. And he would also they would post jobs, not him, they would post jobs once a month, I think it was, you know, where they hired within the company. And he would come out and he would talk to you about having purple blood and yada, yada, yada. And I would listen to him. But all the time, my mind wasn't like, okay, I'm going to retire with this company. I'm going to work for Federal Express the rest of my life, and I'm going to have purple blood, you know. But in my mind, I was thinking, you know what? If he can do it, I might not have planes, but I'm going to start my own company, you know. I'm not going to try to get jobs, you know, because I had friends that would run to that board once a month, and that was good for them, but I never looked on that board. My thing was I wanted to get out of that company. So I said, I'm going to start my own business. I said, I'm gonna start. First, I said, I'm going to start off with little girls, teaching them how to be young ladies, you know, because I've always been poised. I grew up watching Diane Carroll, you know, and I thought she was one of the classiest women there was outside of my mother, you know. She was a classy lady, you know. So I said, I'm going to teach little girls how to walk and how to stand and how to talk and how to be a lady, you know. But from there, you know, I said, it went a little further. I said, you know what? I said, Federal Express is ran 24 hours. I said, and these people need somewhere to take their children. I said, and what I'm going to do is use Federal Express. They're employees. They will let you run ads within the company, and you have to offer a discount. And what I did was I went and found me a little small building. Well, it ended up, it was going to be 3 rooms, and I asked the man, I knew how to talk to him, could I have the whole building? So I ended up getting the whole building. I didn't just filling it up with children. And I ran it 24 hours. I got out and the word they use now is hustle. But I worked my butt off, and I let the word get out, and I marketed that thing, and people knew that I was a great mother myself with my children. And before I knew it, I said, well, I'm going to make my first $5,000. Well, you know what? $5,000 wasn't $5,000. It was $20,000. My place was booming 24 hours around the clock. I said, I'm gonna work this thing. I said, children are going to roll in and roll out, and I'm going to give them the best quality service, because that's one thing that I learned from Federal Express. So the things that I learned there that I knew, I took it with me. Where they ship packages, I used it for my children, for my daycare. for my daycare business. I said, we're not dealing with packages here. We're dealing with precious cargo, people, children, and I'm going to provide the best quality service that I can, and that's what I did. Before I knew it, the daycare was booming. I mean, it wasn't like I say from 5,000 to 20,000, and as time went on, and I just remember doing my taxes, and I made $3-some million, And
Wow.
it was booming. I bought property. I started buying property. I built my own building. I did that myself because it was always a struggle. It was always a struggle. But, I just offered something that the people wanted. They loved me, they loved what I had to give. They loved the service that I gave. They loved the love that I had for the children. Everything that I did, I geared it toward the kids, and I made sure they had nothing but the best. So, it did extremely well. And
Wow.
I think the thing that hit the hardest was that the mothers loved me because, I was one of them, and I let them know that, I was in you all's shoes. As the years went on, I raised them, and then I started raising their children, and they I understood them because I was them. I was that young mother that was beat up, that was running most of my life. So, I took it back, the one that I built when I decided to build, to the inner city, and I helped a lot of my mamas, and the children, and that's just what I do. I just gave back to the community. I never forgot where I came from, and I never will forget where I came from. I knew that my daughters, they were fine, but it was a lot of young mothers that didn't have a mother or those praying grandmamas that I grew up with, So, that's what I did. That's what I did.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that the business acquired this mass amount of wealth. I mean, like $3-something million. What changed for you as far as what went through your mind when you realized that you had acquired this amount of money?
What went through my mind, I guess, just hard work and, equals success. But what went through my mind was how good God is and how I went from driving. I can remember my husband picking me up. We had a Wonder Bread truck. It had three gears to it, okay? And he could, shift the gears or whatever. But I can remember it was faded out, and I can remember him picking me up in it. And he would be late, and I'd be standing there waiting. And I remember one of my girlfriends asked me, she said, aren't you ashamed to ride in that? And I was like, I hope it cranks. That was just my attitude. I hope it starts, And going from never having nothing to, buying, Range Rovers and it wasn't like, just being able to get the things that I wanted, and first of all, being able to know how to manage money. You know what I'm saying? To start from the bottom and work my way up and know what to do with that money when God blesses me with it. And know that I can get the things that I want. So I thought about, there was a difference. I've been poor. I've stood in the food stamp line, and I've gotten weak milk for my baby where I had to go and go to another mother and ask her, can I change milk with her because this milk, and she had some milk, some real Similac that she really didn't want. I've done all of that. I've been there. I've been poor. I've had to sit at a welfare in front of a lady and she asked me, how do you buy toilet tissue? I've been insulted. And did I like it? No, I didn't. But how did I like it now, that I'm able to? I could have always done that, but the baggage, I had to remove the baggage. I've had and I've not had. And it was just so much better having, at a point that I've been bankrupt with him. I've been foreclosed on with him. I've been up and I've been down. My little mama, she said it. She says, Trina, and she's not living now. She held her little hands down and she says, Trina, I've never seen nobody go down and come up. Go down and come up. And she take her hands and she just go down and bring them down and bring them back up a little higher, And I've been there. So, I was so grateful to God what he had blessed me with. But I knew that if I worked hard and, I've always been a person that, I love stability, and I know how to make things work. And I know how to make money work, like the fish and the bread, that Jesus, I know how to stretch
That's
things.
right.
I know how to look at something and just make it happen. I can make it happen. It's not going to fall out the sky, and that's what I tell people. You know, I don't give people false hope. Oh, Katrina just got it. Just like, no, I got out there and I've worked for anything. And I just tell people, you can do anything you want to do. And I do see a lot of lazy folks, you know. And I know people, I just lost a sister-in-law. You know, she just passed away, and she was so smart. And she always told me, she says, Trina, you know, I always wanted to be a school teacher, and she could cook her butt off before they even came out with chef. You know, but you can't procrastinate. You know, every day you can say what I want to do. But I'm going to tell you, the key to this thing is getting up and doing it and keeping a journal. And every day you got to applaud yourself for your dreams. You got to applaud yourself. It's your dream. You got to make that dream come true. But how serious are you? You cannot. It's not going to come true if you're lazy. If you're lazy, ain't nothing going to happen.
Wow, preach.
Yeah.
Now so many feel like when we look at the different programs on TV and people who are celebrity status and have all this money, so many people think that their family life and relationships change because they acquire so much money. Is that true? What happens when an individual makes this money? They work hard and they begin to see the fruit of it, and you know the people around them, maybe friends and family, you know, it seems like everybody's trying to come at you. And what happens in that moment? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like you said, so many times we see these celebrities, but we don't know how people get their money, to be honest. You know, I mean, like keeping up with the Joneses. Now they got keeping up with the Kardashians, and that's true. You don't know how these people got their money. They could have inherited. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I came from, like I said, the neighborhood, 3 or 4 streets. Black folks couldn't go past them. You know, nobody had nothing, but those black people had lower houses, you know. We had running water, and we had a restroom inside, you know. So we wasn't like super poor for black people, you know. But, you know, as far as people coming to you, you know, I have a very giving heart, but I think that the thing that I can give you is a blueprint, you know, because I think that so many people have gifts, you know, and again, I'm trying to answer your question best that I can. You know, when people come to you and ask you for different things, you know, and family members, you know, of course you want everybody to do well. And I think that when you've been blessed and God has blessed you with, you know, riches and things like that, I don't see nothing wrong. If somebody just constantly coming to you every day and saying, give me. But I think it's nothing wrong with helping people, you know, because when I think about it, somebody had to help me. I ain't saying give them everything. Okay, I'm going to buy you a Mercedes and I'm going to do this and that. But I have been giving. But I'm not, you know, you just can't keep giving. You show a person. You teach them how to fish. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, but at the same time, it's nothing wrong with helping others because I always say somebody had to help me. I don't think the average person got where they are without somebody, some angel came along and helped them. When I mentioned that I started and that man was nice enough to give me that building, he didn't give it to me. I had to pay him. But still, God showed him favor where I probably didn't have to pay him as much. And I had, you know, it was something affordable, or I knew how to manage with the children that I started off with. But somebody along the way had to help me, whether it was that lady that, you know, found favor in her heart to send me out to Federal Express. So when family members come, you know, to me, if they're just coming to you just because they want money and every time they call they just want money, then, hey, I'm one of those people that I'm going to tell you. I don't beat around the bush. I'm just going to talk to you and let you know, what you're doing. You know, that's not right. You need to just be honest and call people out. And that's what I do. You need to call people out and let them know, hey, you know, Johnny, you know, you've been calling me every week for some money. You never call me just to see how Trina's doing, you know. I mean, you probably don't even care about me. You just want some money. But that's not going to keep happening. Now, you're going to have to get out here and figure out what you're going to do with your life. You know, everybody get a life, you know. So, you know, those are the things that I would tell you. So you're going to know who it is that's trying to, you know, just con you or just make a fool out of you or trying to use you or whatever word it is, you know. Or it may be somebody that really needs that help, and it's nothing wrong if you can give them that help. And it ain't always got to be material. You can tell them, well, hey, you got 2 hands, Johnny. You know, you good with working on these cars. Hey, you know, why don't you just start off? Or, you know, I see these people, they call 2 men in a truck. You know, why don't you move some people? Let's figure out how we're going to market this thing. You know, so those are the things that I tell her. Or the beautician, I'll let her know, you know, you're an architect. Man, you can do hair. She can sit in your chair and look just as crazy. And when she leaves, she looks so beautiful. You just sculpted that hair. You know, so, you know, that's what I do is just teach people. Not only that, get your butt back in school. If you're young, you know, it's all kind of money that's out here. Come on, if you're serious about it, let's figure out where we're going to get this money so you can go to school to be that RN, to be that doctor, to be that lawyer, you know. I mean, those are the things that I teach people. That's what I teach people, how to get it, how to do it themselves. And I have helped and changed so many people's lives. And I'm not saying it in a bragging way or facetious way, but it's the truth. I thank God. I'm talking about drug dealers that would be out there selling drugs, and I teach them, you don't want nobody rapping at your door. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to live that life. You don't want to end up somewhere dead or end up doing a whole lot of time. But now, they're running their own businesses successfully, and I thank God that he has given me, because a lot of men are partial to me. They will listen to me. And I thank God. I don't know why. I don't even question it. I guess, I'm going to say this because I'm down to earth and I keep it real with them. And that's what people want. People don't want no fake no more. No, everybody, just because they came up with all this instant stuff, don't mean that everybody wanted out the microwave. Some people want the down home, truth. They just want the truth. They want you to keep it 100 with them. And I think they respect that. And that's what we're missing nowadays. We don't have that anymore.
Wow.
And we got to get back to the basics. We got to get back to that.
That's right. Now, as you stated, you do teaching, speaking, coaching, and working with people in business and finances and women of domestic violence situations. I'm going to ask you a few questions just related to some of those. What would you say to a person, whether they be a mom or a dad or just a single person, that is trying and they're constantly getting the door closed in their face? How would you encourage them?
I would tell them, don't stop, don't give up. I said, baby, do not give up. You keep on. Something's going to happen. It's no way on God's green earth that I can go out here and plant a seed, Cornell, and go back, and ain't nothing going to happen. Something, I don't care how many doors, but let me tell you something. If you try something, that's like I got a bad, beat-up car. You know what I'm saying? And I'm constantly putting money into this bad car. I'm not going to keep on doing. If I had started what I was doing with this, and it never would work, then that means it's time for me to do something different. But I wouldn't have given up. Something's going to happen somewhere. And see, even with me starting the child care center, it could have been 20 child care centers. If you go to McDonald's and it's a Burger King across from it, you know where you want to go eat. So if I start a daycare center and it's 20 of them around me, what am I going to do different than them 20 that's right around me? You got to do something different and know how to market your business. But I would tell that person, don't give up. Just keep working hard, because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. But if you work hard, you're going to be successful at it. Don't give up. Keep on trying. No, it's not going to fall out the sky, but keep on working hard at it. Something's going to give, and that's a fact. That's a fact. It ain't no way for it not to. You got to. You got to. If you give up, then, hey, you're doing just what the enemy wants you to do. Do never give up. Just keep on trying. Unless it's something that you're putting money into and it ain't never nothing happening, then you might want to try something different, but that don't mean you're giving up. You don't give up. You keep on trying. Just try something different. Or you may want to put a twist to what you're already doing, but something's going to give. Whether it's a lawn service, I don't care what it is, but something's going to give. You do not give up on what you're trying to do. That's your dream. And you can't tell everybody and expect everybody to understand what you want to do or what you're trying to do. It ain't what's for you, it's for you.
That's it. Now, what role would you say other people, a team? Do you feel like a person who's growing and trying to get there, do they need certain people around them? How important are their relationships?
I mean, I think that, like when I started out, I don't let nothing discourage me, because, like I said, people brought their children to me. And I remember when I first started, of course, I was a mother, and we were young mothers. So I knew young mothers that were having kids, and they knew I was good, but it could be a so-called friend. So you got to know everybody ain't your friend, and everybody don't wish you well. You would hope that the whole world wished you well, but you got to wish yourself well. So you can't concern yourself about, people, and you got to be careful about, who's around you. And I'm not saying everybody's bad, because there's still some good people, but whatever it is that you got to do for you, you got to do for you, and you can't expect for everybody to understand it or everybody to want to see you, reach these goals that you're trying to get to, You just, like I said, number one, you keep God first and you believe in yourself, and it may be somebody, because I just remember when I first started, it wasn't like nobody wanted to just really just help Katrina, They didn't just love me like that, but I remember my mama, saying, Trina, I'll never forget that to the day I die. I'll cook for you. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have somebody that may want to be a part of your team, and those are the well-wishers that you want, people that love you and that believe in you, and those are the people that you bring with you. that's, a part of your team. And those are the people that you really be good to. Because I'm going to tell you something. My mama's dead and gone, but I was good to that woman. That woman didn't have to want for nothing. Do you hear me? She didn't have to want for nothing. I made sure that mama, before she left this earth, one thing she didn't have to worry about was money. And bought her the cutest little dog she wanted, and she dressed the dog up, and she said people didn't know what she had on and what the dog had on, and but she enjoyed her life. She enjoyed her life. She could take trips. She could have money in her bank account, and and I'm just glad a woman that was born in 1932, which she was a tough little lady, like I told you, but she got to enjoy. She didn't have the worries of not having, money. She was able to do the things that she wanted to do. And that's what you do. You bring the people along that's good to you, that loves you, and you'll know who loves you and they care about and want to see you do good. And when you do good, make sure that they do good as well. Don't forget them. You make sure that they do good, as well.
It's remarkable how you talk about your mom and to hear how the relationship started. She just dropped you off. What point did you have to go through a period of forgiveness with her, or did you just always have this love for her that no matter what happened with that?
No, she did what she had to do back then. You got to look at it back then in the 60s. I was in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. She was trying to do it. However she did it. One lady leaves Memphis, Tennessee, and go to strike out going up north. They said she said she was going to New York, but she left her 2 children with her mama, saying she's going to the store. May not sound right, but what was she going to do here? It may not be right what she did, but that lady had a reason that she was trying to make a better life, for her family. She came back, with the baby, and she was one of the first ones to move out of a neighborhood into a white neighborhood. I was going to a school with white kids. I was the only black in my classroom. So blacks and whites wasn't going to school together then. So she moved to this neighborhood, and I feel like I just got a really good education, because the books that we had at the other school and the teachers didn't seem to really care, it was a whole different world for me, So it taught me just people, period. It didn't matter to me about the color of your skin, It didn't matter. It was about your heart, whether you had a good heart, And my grandmother grew up as one of those ladies that was The Help, like the movie The Help, But my mother, I never, that woman did the best that she knew how. So, no, I wouldn't ever go around and say, I'm mad at my mama. She did the best. When you done the best that she was a young woman, she did the best that she knew, from abusive men and just making sure that we, had food, even though I had to go out and try to figure things out. But, the neighborhood was so close-knit. I thank God that one thing I can say, I have no memories of being molested. I'm not going to sit here and say I remember that happening to me. I don't remember that in that 3 or 4 street neighborhood. Nothing like that ever happened to me. Many folks' houses that I was in, that never happened to me. Thank God for that. Not to say that it couldn't have, but I thank God that it didn't, because I was one of those kids that I was all over the place with. I'm sure if somebody looked at me a certain kind of way, I was getting on out of there, But, no, I don't have anything horrible to say about my mom. I think that she did, the best that she knew how, and she brought me in this world. And I thank God, for her and, for everything that she went through, during her time. I love that.
I think that's an amazing, I think that's an amazing message, because so many people walk around blaming their parents for what they didn't do and did not do. And you got to just get up and say, you know what? They did what they knew at that time. And I forgive them. I love them. And I'm moving on.
Yes. When you've done the best you can do, that's all. And I tell any parent, parenting is not easy anyhow. None of us are. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. We all do the best that we can as a parent. And when you've done the best you can do, again, I say that's all you can do. And she did what she knew, I mean, even if she whooped me, but I think I probably got a couple of whoopings, because I think I went on over that neighborhood that we weren't supposed to go to. I wanted to see what was going on over in Chickasaw Gardens. And when she found out that I had gone over there, she whooped my butt real good, But, I have to always think about, maybe she whooped me because, she didn't want the police to whoop me, And I remember my brother got shot, and he laid on the backseat of a car, and the police officer let him just bleed to death and die before he could get to the hospital. But, maybe she knew, she was so fearful of the police even back then that maybe she was so scared for me to go there, and she did the best that she knew, that if I got caught over there in that neighborhood, that something bad may happen to me, So, like I say, who knows? She's gone now. But I really feel that as a young woman, a young black woman, she did the best that she knew how, to raise her children, and whatever she could do, she always brought something back to the family. When she left, she always came back with something, even marrying that man on an agreement to get that house, to move us in a better neighborhood. May not sound right, but the woman did the best that she knew how.
That's right. Now, in the vein of business, give us a couple of tips that you would give to some of our entrepreneurs that are listening. They're in business and they're making money. As it pertains to the business realm, what are some things that you think they need to always keep in the forefront in order to stay successful?
I think the number one thing is when you have a business, you better know how to manage your money. Just because you're making money and you can be the richest person on earth, if you mismanage that money can be gone. And you mentioned earlier, do you give it to everybody? You don't give all your money away. You just don't. There's nothing wrong with helping somebody sometimes, but you don't give away all of your blessings, So manage your money wisely. That money, you see it often, you see about these ball players and they made XYZ amount of money and, and then they're broke, Well, what happened, I mean, I bought cars and things like that, but that was later on. I started out, making sure my business was right. When I started out with the first business, I did a second one, and I made sure that I built that building where it was free and clear. It belonged to me. Nobody comes back and take nothing from me. And I always thought about, okay, I'm renting here, but I need something else. What if this thing catch on fire? I'm going to be back to square one, and I can't go back to working nowhere for somebody else. So I would say, number one, manage your money wise. And think outside the box, It's so many things, and there's so many ways to make money. Think outside the box. What are you going to do if you want to make more money, How are you going to expand and make your business grow? And have something every fiscal year. Have yourself a goal. Okay, this fiscal year I want to make FY, and they do it at big corporations. They did it at Federal Express. The projected year, we're going to make so many millions, The company's going to bring in so many millions. And I think that, just manage your money wise. Think about what you want to do as far as making more money, if that's what you want to do. Or you may just be comfortable where you are, But just make sure that you manage your money and put your money aside and have something for retirement and things along that line, Just know, where your money is going. Don't use it all up, and you end up with nothing. Just manage that money that you're making.
That's good. Now, as we prepare to get out of here, give us some encouragement for those young ladies that may be in a domestically violent relationship and they don't feel like they have a way out. What would you say to them?
You do have a way out, number one, and don't stay. Come up with a plan. You need to talk to somebody, find somebody that you can trust, and start coming up with a plan and get away. And also notice mental abuse. It's real, It chisels away at your brain. I have a friend right now that her husband, she's actually lost her mind, from just being mentally abused. I went through it. I was in a relationship and the person was just mean, just mean. And you know it, and you just got to go. You got to get away. You cannot stay in a bad relationship because nowadays, I saw all the people with the black eyes, but now, people are just shooting people and killing them, It's nothing. The human life really means nothing to people anymore. It really doesn't, But you got to care about your own life. You really do. People will shoot you. They'll kill you, and you only get one life. We don't know, we know once we're put in that ground. You understand what I'm saying? So don't stay and don't let nobody, do you like that. Don't do it. Ain't nothing that you. Don't be afraid. Just get out there and go.
And I think for so many of them, they have to build their own self-worth and self-value, because I think a lot of them stay because they don't want to be embarrassed, oh, he got another woman, or it's something wrong with me. People going to think this. They're so worried about what other people think. They're so worried about the image of the relationship versus. Yeah. That's
right, and that's something that I don't worry about, and that's why I do what I do. I talk about the truth. I say it was me. I'll stand up for you, and that's why they don't need to be embarrassed because you're the victim. You're the one got done wrong. So what are you scared of? Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed because 9 times out of 10, everybody done went through something. It didn't just hit me and skip over somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in life goes through something. Now, whether or not they tell it or not, but, don't be embarrassed. You got to talk about it. You got to tell somebody. You got to find somebody that you can trust now and let them know. And you got to get out of that bad situation. Do not stay there because you could end up with losing your life, losing your mind, and you may not get your mind back. So you got to go. I always tell women, you got to go. I wouldn't stay. I would not stay in a horrible, horrible situation. I believe in counseling and I believe in trying to make things work. But when you know things are not going to work, you got to go.
That's right. Get out of there because your life at stake.
Yes, and not only that, that person needs some help, and that's when I really want one day that we can reverse. But right now, the main person is the victim. That we got to make sure that person is in a safe place because that person that's beating on you, he ain't nothing but a bully, and he could hurt you or she, because it happens. It happens. My son was beat in the head by his wife, and she called me one time and she told me, she said, you know what, you're not gonna like what you see, and they both were messing around with drugs. But she said, I done hit him in the eye with my ring finger. This girl was so mean. She said his eye is bloody. So, who calls somebody mama and tell them that? You know what I'm saying? So, it's just so much. And I would tell him, and I would tell him, you know what? This is not good. This is not good for either one of y'all. This is not good that you with somebody that's going to just beat you up like that. But some people don't think that it happens to men. It happens to men just like women. And either way, it's wrong. Nobody has a right to hold their hand back and beat nobody. Ain't nobody got no right to call nobody out their name or have nobody scared to death. I've been there. I'm not embarrassed. I've been there where a man just fussed at me so till I was standing up there about to pass out. And I was thinking in my mind, what did I do or what can I say? I'm a grown woman. And then I went through it. My mom went through it. I heard her say to her friend, somebody spoke to her in a nice way. They were out, and she was out with Crow. That's my sister's dad. And the guy, somebody said, D, you sure look pretty. All they did was complimented her. She said, and I knew it. This is a grown woman talking to her friend, saying, I knew when I got home I was going to get a whooping. And I'm thinking as a little girl, a grown woman getting a whooping? But, you got to get away from that. You can't stay in that mess. That's a bunch of mess. You're crazy if you stay. You got to figure out a way to get out of there. You got to come over with a plan. And I think that a lot of times with women, they don't have the finances and they think they can't make it. They can't survive out there, But you got to come up with a plan. It's places that I'm sure it's shelters and different things like that. I don't care if you have to go sleep on somebody's floor like I did, and you can't let that person know where you are if harm is going to be in your way. You got to go to the law. You know what you got to do. You still got your mind. You got to think about yourself and your safety. And you got children. You got to think about it because these men are shooting you down in the driveway, shooting you down in the house in front of the children. They don't care. It's happening. We got to face the truth. Every day, some city, right now, some child some young girl or old girl or whatever is being faced with domestic violence and she's scared to death, She don't know what to do, That's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame that she got to go through that. It's a shame.
Wow. Well, Trina, I thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
Do you have any last words of encouragement to our guests?
I wish everybody, just happiness and just have a good life. I just want people to have a good life. And when I lay down at the end of the day, that's what I hope and pray that I've helped somebody, Also, they can go to my Facebook. I'm going to have a book that's coming out. It's called Unbreakable. Yep. But like I say, I just want people to know that in life it's not going to be perfect. You go up one hill, it's going to be another, and we deal with it, okay? But, some of these obstacles that we got, people, places, and things, we just got to make good choices on our life. And everything, as far as the people we let in our life, the places we go, the things that we do, we just got to make good choices in our life. We only get one,
That's right. Well, there you have it. This has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit CornellJermaine.com.